All right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. We are thanking you for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk Tech with your host, Michael P. Upshaw Sr. Today we have joining us none other than the very great man. And when I say great man, I'm telling you, this is a great man. This guy is powerful, man, has worked in so many different areas. And we are going to introduce him to you here shortly, Mr. Dr. Rob Hughes, and he is the Director of Operations at the Restoration Storehouse. And so we're going to bring him up. Dr. Hughes, thank you for joining us this beautiful morning. Here it's morning, but where people may be watching or listening, it could be afternoon or evening. But we're in Georgia, so we are in the wee hours of the morning while we are recording this episode of this podcast. But we want to just thank you for joining us today and being on the show and gracing us with your presence. And we're going to break down some things as we do here on Let's Talk Tech. Some things will be, tech. Some things will be how tech influences our day-to-day. And so thank you, sir, for joining us. How about you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and, who Dr. Hughes really is?
Amen. Well, good morning, and thank you again for the invitation to join you and the Let's Talk Tech community. My name is Dr. Rob Hughes, resident of Georgia. I have been living in Georgia now for over 19 years, and it's been a blessed opportunity for me to work in a variety of spaces, but all of those spaces do have levels of interaction. Those spaces include working in the faith community, working in the nonprofit sector, and also being a for-profit business owner. And all of those areas combined have been put into practice as a way to impact community development and working with families and communities to be the best that God has created them to be. So what is at the underline of who I am is my faith. I am an ordained clergy person, but God has me serving in a variety of different fields of mission to be able to put faith into practice on a daily basis.
Man, that is great. I know you, and I just want this great audience to get a chance to know the great man that you are and why we have you on today. From media to technology, politics, community organizing, I mean, you've done so much in this time that you've been on this earth, just living your purpose day to day. And so, going from, being involved in for-profit, nonprofit, and doing different things that you've had a chance to do. So we are talking to my brother, my friend, Dr. Rob Hughes of Restoration Storehouse. He is the Director of Operations. And so we're going to dive right in and just really talk about, the impact that Dr. Hughes is having. And even more than that, the impact that he's having within the organization that he's a part of and how he came to be a part of that organization. So, Dr. Hughes, tell us how you started your work there at Restoration Storehouse.
Sure. It started in the late summer of 2019. The executive director, Mr. Ron Fairley, and I struck up conversations as a result of being in the same church community. And we would have conversations regarding just nonprofit work in general, some very high level topics of conversation, issue areas that people were working to address in the community, specifically the issue of poverty. And what are some ways in which communities, churches, nonprofits are working together in collaboration to be able to help families that were experiencing poverty. My background, specifically over the past 10 years, gave me a set of experiences that placed me in community directly I had an opportunity to serve as a in-residence chaplain in a transitional facility. And so that gave me direct experience of understanding what people were going through as they were trying to navigate uh, issues of poverty. And issues of poverty meaning housing instability, uh, issues with finances, jobs, issues with just establishing a firm foundation. And so being able to enter into direct relationship with people and come alongside and offer a variety of services as that person makes a decision to move forward and improve their life was a model that I was able to live. And now in the environment of Restoration Storehouse, I have the privilege of working with 14 other nonprofit partners that share similar goals, that share a similar ethic of being able to provide direct services to people who are experiencing poverty, and not only provide services, but provide relationship, provide encouragement, provide a positive path forward that people make a decision to opt into. And once they do that, there's a community that surrounds them to make sure that they can move forward on the pathway to sustainability.
Well, when you talk about a pathway to sustainability, and your work there, how are you able to make a impact, in the community by leveraging the resources that Restoration Storehouse brings to the community?
Well, the good news is that Restoration Storehouse serves as what's called a backbone organization in what's called the collective impact model. And so what we do is help to provide infrastructure, resource, a centralized location in which partners who join us at that location, and then also as a partner in offering those services, make the commitment to work together. There's a tremendous amount of talent in our community that is being organized and serviced through our nonprofit community. And this decision was made by some leaders prior to my arrival within the we're specifically located in Rockdale County, Georgia, in the Rockdale community, to begin to look at ways to leverage relationship. And so that way, organizations could focus in on what they deliver best and be able to maximize the use of their resources within the nonprofit community and offering services to those who are experiencing poverty. So that conversation evolved to the formation of Restoration Storehouse, which again now is a collaboration of 14 different nonprofit groups with the commitment of working and serving together. And so this gives us an opportunity to learn from each other in the way in which practices are employed to the community. And then specifically in the way of technology, it opens up a opportunity to create a shared data platform. And so it's through the use of the shared experiences, the shared data platform, that we learn more about each other, learn more about the community that we serve. And in doing so, the goal is for us to make healthier and better decisions in the use of our resources and time towards the effort of eliminating or focusing on helping families leave poverty in Rockdale County.
Now, as we look at the focus, let's sort of backtrack a little bit in terms of when you started, when you took the position. Obviously, we are in this pandemic season of life, and you took this
Yes.
position. Restoration Storehouse is a physical location that offers to the community based off of their needs. So it's a place that they have to come to receive different services and different things like that. So when you took the opportunity, obviously you couldn't see, COVID-19 coming into the perspective probably, beforehand or as you were making the decision. But as you did and we began to transition into the season, how has that impacted, what's taking place at Restoration Storehouse, both positive and negative ways, but also what uses of technology potentially that you all didn't foresee having to integrate that you had to install in order to serve the broader community?
The good news is that as the partner, the network of partners that began to think collaboratively and was at the basis of our origination, there was already conversations in place of, again, how do we share the information that we are gathering? How do we learn together? And so there were already conversations looking at models and systems of technology that we could put into action to assist us in doing that. I think the COVID time period just accelerated the conversation because of the need to continue to be of service to the community, but also to be able to do it in healthy and safe ways. And particularly at the beginning stages of COVID-19 and its impact here in the community and across the nation, people were just trying to figure out business operations practices. What are healthy ways to stabilize organizations, as well as how quickly can we return to being able to offer services to the clients, the people that we serve. And so I would say over the course of about 60 days, those conversations moved from possibilities and exploration to being able to secure systems and put some things into place and implementing some change. And so we have, again, 14 different partners, and they all took their individual pathways of exploring what would be the best way for them to deliver the services. But ultimately, after that particular round of exploration, being able to come back in a partner setting and again learn from each other what was being put into place to be able to protect the working environment and then those that are being served. And so an example is out of the medical community, they implemented a telehealth system which allowed for clients to have direct access to doctors electronically. And so that is just one example of something that was probably already on the drawing board, but when the issue of COVID-19 began to impact business operations, there were some decisions that needed to be made, and this was one that was a great decision and one that will probably remain an option for that partner because they have realized the benefit of being able to offer not only in-person direct services for their clients, but the value of being able to implement telehealth services that helps them use their resources in a more efficient way. So I think this season has allowed for those who are in nonprofit work, who are constantly looking at ways to increase efficiency as well as maximize delivery of services, being able to employ technology in this way has been of extreme benefit for the organizations as well as the communities that we serve.
So when we talk about the partners, and that was an excellent example of telehealth and being able to leverage, that technology to still be able to serve the broader community and to be able to offer those type of services. And so many people have, and I agree. I think that it's something that won't go away, but will be very necessary in serving people for various different reasons, outside of just our current, pandemic crisis. The other question, though, about the partners that I have is, as there's a building phase that has taken place, right, and still is in place. And so with the building of facility and making sure that everything is operational, I know that, supply chain has changed greatly, has caused some delays and different things like that. But if I hear you correctly, your partners have stayed engaged with the process of moving forward. Talk a little bit about, the process of, you being the director of operations says a whole lot, because that means that you have to be involved in the process of partnership, what's happening, how they continue to not only provide services, but look toward the future while these delays are taking place. How have you all navigated that process of supply chain management?
Well, on the supply chain management side, as you have already pointed out, that the ability to be able to deliver services at a certain cost, and being able to have resources available is something that everyone is looking at and having to navigate. As a result, there are definitely increased costs involved from the physical development of the building, out phase of building out the physical plan of Restoration Storehouse, and also just managing the timeline of being able to develop it in a way that continues to employ the best use of resources, the best crews to do the work and the installations, and then ultimately being able to coordinate with our partners to ensure a move-in schedule that will be minimum in any disruptions of service as companies or organizations relocate to the physical space. And so that's one example. In the individual organizations and how they are delivering services, they are continuing to look at when pools of funds are available. Our nonprofit partners, they are responsible for securing their budget, their resources. And so this season has definitely caused them to be more creative in seeking support, funding support, whether that's direct donations or whether that's grants at the private or public level. But being able to work in a smart, efficient way continues to yield much benefit. One thing that I am excited about and that I know that groups have experienced is that when people are going through, people meaning something like COVID-19 that impacts every person in our nation and, of course, essentially around the world, um, people respond in different ways, but people respond in a healthy way of wanting to find ways in which they can help. And so I don't have statistics on it, but it's my understanding that the nonprofit sectors still remain strong in being able to cultivate donor base. People still want to give. COVID-19 isn't the only issue that society is facing. There have been many issues that society has continued to have to navigate over the past year and a half, with the pandemic being at the forefront of much of our attention. But people are still giving. People are still have a heart to help others, and people are still wanting to be smart about their gifts and how they engage with different nonprofits for specific purposes. And so this has continued to allow the nonprofit community to have to pay attention to delivery of services. Are the services being delivered in a effective and an efficient fashion? How are they communicating the availability of services? How do they do community outreach to reach their target populations, if you will, who may need the service, particularly when the ability to go in community or go door to door is something that those who practice this work of community engagement need to be mindful of how to engage the public in healthy and safe ways. And so employing technology has put that into play. Of course, we all have adopted to some form of video streaming for our meeting purposes, uh, use of technology in being able to directly engage clients or parishioners in the case of congregations. So I think that a lot of the tools were already available to us. I think the operational shifts revolve around how do we effectively put these tools into practice for ourselves and for the health of the community. And so I think in this conversation of Let's Talk Tech, I think that's extremely important to continue to think through how do we use technology in healthy ways? How do we maximize the benefit of what we do have in our hands and seek to make that available broadly in ways that improve lives as well as impact lives?
Yeah, I think that that's a great segue when we think about how to improve lives and then how to impact lives. And we are talking with Dr. Rob Hughes, Director of Operations at Restoration Storehouse. And we're going to take a little transition a little bit because we know that the impact on lives is very important. And, we're going to talk a little bit about that and just some of the other endeavors that Dr. Hughes has embarked upon. And so, let's talk about Youth Universe. Let's tell people a little bit about Youth Universe, the background, you as the founder at the helm of Youth Universe, what was the vision, how did it come about? And for those of you that are listening, Dr. Rob Hughes has a great ministerial background. I call him the doctor, the mentor, the minister, the one who serves the people and does it with great humility. And so Youth Universe, as we talked about it over the years, share with our audience because, most of us, we have work and then we have our own things that we do outside of work that still impact the community. And so this just speaks to you as a person and how you make a broader impact within the community with some of the personal projects that you have embarked on. And so I've always enjoyed hearing you talk about Youth Universe, looking at it and some of the things that you've been able to do in educating young people on some of the things that we see happening today in our society, right? But helping them to understand how to navigate those civic, areas of life. And so just talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So early in my ministry career, I had the privilege of serving as a youth pastor. And this was in the mid 2000s. And so at this stage, the use of technology and handheld devices, mobile phones, and the like were very much a growing part of our daily life. And not just our daily life as adults, but also daily life as our youth were adopting the technology and people who had access to mobile phones, the age was increasingly being lowered. But there was not a lot of conversation in what it meant for young people to have access to that, not just the type of technology, but the access to information and the vastness of what one is able to find connecting to the internet. And so, as a youth pastor, we began to think through ways in which we could have conversations about the ethical use of technology and being able to leverage technology in ways in which youth could use the platforms that they had access to in positive ways. And so, of course, over these past 15 years, we've been able to see how youth has led the way in the adoption of technology and has, found more than a variety of ways to put it into practice, not just for consumer use, but many young people are leveraging the use of technology for business and using them as money generating platforms. And there's clearly just a whole ecosystem and economic platform and development that is available to young people today that was not available at the onset of Youth Universe. So the original plan for Youth Universe was simply to begin to have healthy conversations with young people about the use of technology and being able to introduce them to some basic video production, media production skill sets, hopefully spark an interest in what could be a career path for them, and being able to connect them to other educational institutions that would help further develop those early gifts. And so that was the original mission of Youth Universe. Once we started the conversations, that allowed for us to build relationships with other youth-oriented agencies, ministries in the Atlanta area. And for me, it provided an opportunity to do some collaborative work, which is consistent with what I'm continuing to do in my current work. It allowed for me to interview other youth ministers, other youth practitioners, develop youth technical crews that were instrumental in putting together video programs and segments that help capture the stories of how youth organizations were working to impact the lives of young people. And at that time, and even today, that's a much needed conversation. How do we work in the space of youth development, education, along with moral and spiritual practices, and helping young people develop socially and morally as individuals, and being able to talk through morals and values and ethics in our culture in ways that develop impactful young people, so they can take those early lessons and find ways to apply them in many areas of their life as they continue to grow in their education development, and then as they enter into the workforce, and being able to apply ethics, and specifically Christian ethics, into the things that they do. And so our goal at Youth Universe was to help expose our young people to the use of technology, understanding technology, the values within technology, and then being able to find healthy ways to put that into practice to help them find and craft and build their voice, and know that they had the support of those who were working with them to help them do just that. And so we've seen some great results as we've seen young people continue to find innovative ways to apply technology in the things that they do and how they intend to make an impact in community.
No, that's amazing, man. And, I've had the privilege to see some of the content, the storytelling, and just some of the things that Youth Universe has engaged in. And I just think that it's awesome. And so as we talk about that and moving into the entrepreneur side of things, Interactive Professional Media Group, IPMG, as we know it, as an entrepreneur with a media background, what advice would you give to any person that's listening today who may be strategically thinking about his or her entrepreneur endeavors? They may be involved already. They may be thinking about launching. You've been a part of so many great projects and just so many different organizations, and being able to leverage your talents across different markets, right? From politics, to church, and everything in the middle. And so being involved with, civil rights and just some of the things that you've had an opportunity to see, what would you advise somebody who is, an entrepreneur just getting started, or maybe they've been doing it for a little while, but they're just sort of evaluating, their business practices and themselves, and how they want to, work and live and integrate these different things into their life, but bring a certain level of clear thinking, along with critical thinking, to that process?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. First and foremost, I would encourage everyone to develop a relationship with God, and as a Christian, through having a relationship with God through Jesus the Christ. And that is essential and has been the foundation of my work and professional and vocational life. Although God has invited me, and I say God has invited me because that's been the thread of connecting the work that I've been able to do in a variety of sectors. All of that work has a basis of me pursuing a relationship with God, and God having a relationship with me, and taking the time to bring spiritual disciplines to the work that we do. So spiritual disciplines meaning taking time to develop yourself, being able to develop a prayer life, being able to develop some space in your life for some quiet time. There's a lot of conversation now and a lot of technical applications that encourage being calm and having some tranquil space, and dealing with conversations of mindfulness. And so those are words that are used, in my opinion, to not put a spiritual nature on some of those healthy practices. But for me, I learned those same practices through my faith, through building upon my relationship with God, through reading the Bible and being intentional about listening to God's direction for my life. And so the reason for me why that is important is because challenge does come in any pursuit, and we need an anchor when we face those challenges. And so it was because of the relationship that I had with God, me pursuing a sense of calling, having a committed relationship to God, to follow God's guidance in the process, that allowed for me to be flexible when it appeared that certain opportunities and doors were closing, and then knowing that if a door closed, then there's another opportunity that I can bring all of what I had learned in that previous experience to bear on the new opportunity. And so that gives me the flexibility to be able to be adaptable. And in the work that we do as an entrepreneur, that is a key skill that a person must have, is adaptability. And so I would start there. As far as my path navigating the different workspaces that I've been a part of, in a practical matter, just continuing to listen to what others around you are doing, being able to have healthy relationships is extremely important. Being able to continue to work from a plan. So often in conversations with others, and even as I've had to navigate different spaces, sometimes changing a plan seems like failure. And I think that I had to learn that changing plans is not necessarily failure, but it's, again, the ability to be flexible and being able to adapt to changes in our environment, which allow for us to adopt different practices that allow for us to continue to thrive. And so the Bible has many examples of ways in which God protected people that God shared relationship with when conditions on the ground changed, and that because we live practical lives require us to be, again, adaptable and flexible. And sometimes God is guiding us through seasons that God knows about and God knows for us. But I'm encouraged by Jeremiah 29:11, which says, For I know that God has plans to prosper me and not to harm me, plans for my hope and future. And so when things do happen, which they will in any entrepreneurial endeavor, having a focus, and for me, my focus is my relationship with God, that I can pause, I can change, I can be flexible, I can adapt, but also remain consistent in what I believe God has called me to do. So even as the sectors change, there has been consistency in the work. And looking back, that is what I celebrate, how God has remained consistent, and we say God is faithful to us, and in our faithfulness to God in that relationship, that work can be celebrated.
Man, that is an excellent way to just close out this podcast. I mean, what a foundation, and just to speak about having a foundation, and I would even use it this way, being rooted, right? Being rooted so that you can grow, being rooted so that you can prosper, being rooted so that you can produce good fruit. And so as you have so eloquently put it, starting with the relationship with Christ, somebody listening today may not be a believer, may not be a Christian. And so as we are, and that's an opportunity for you to say, hey, you know what? I listened to this podcast. I got all the way to the end, and I realized that the one thing that I was missing was the relationship that was most needed in my life. And that is the relationship with Jesus the Christ. And so thank you, Dr. Hughes, for joining us today, for being a part of, our podcast, one of many as we continue to grow and do all the things that we're put in this earth to do. But we want to always make sure that we're bringing people great information with, utilizing the technology footprint that we have access to. And while we have access to this technology, we want to ensure that we provide others the opportunity to have access, knowledge, and information, not just about the technology, but how it's being used. And when we look at how technology is being used today in so many different areas, we can navigate the areas better based on what we know and how we see other people using technology in various different areas, and hopefully come up with even more innovative ideas and how we can do things together, and even on the collaborative side. So today we are talking tech with Dr. Rob Hughes and myself, your host, Michael P. Upshaw Sr. Today's podcast has been brought to you by Above the Cloud Media and Marketing, LLC, and we are excited about the next opportunity to engage you. So share it with a friend, invite somebody else, let us know about topics that you may want to hear that we may cover, and we have more great podcasts coming your way this year.